Hey, gang. I'm down here on the ground. Let's get started. This is Daily Art Adventure number 565, cutely entitled Getting High on a Large Painting. Yuck, yuck, yuck. It dawned on me. Hello, Paula Haynes. Good to have you on board. It dawned on me after I made that silly title, which it means I'm getting high up on. I have to do the top part of the painting. That's what that means. But it dawned on me after I made it. It's, we all live. A lot of us in our own little silo is a recent word in contemporary culture for living in a. Hang on a second. Let me see if I got the right color here. Not quite. A little more phthalo. Silo for isolated. It dawns on me that probably some of you out there probably don't know that people live in this particular silo that I'm about to describe to you. Hello, I'm sitting on the top of a 7-foot stepladder just to give you a sense of perspective here. Okay, so since I'm being silly, it did dawn on me that some of you, now there'll be some who have no trouble believing what I'm about to say, but some of you will be aghast to learn that there are some of us out there in the world who've never been high on anything in their entire life. That's me. I don't ever expect, unless I'm coming out from surgery. Okay, I've been high when I was coming out from surgery a couple times in my life. But no, never been high, never been drunk. Don't expect to ever get drunk. I do drink periodically just for fun. Never been drunk. Sometimes if I drink a glass of wine, which is a lot for me, on an empty stomach, my head will get a little tiny bit swimmy. And I think, man, if drunk is like this, only more so, I want no part of it. So anyway, I went all the way through college, never got drunk, never got high, and never intend to. I see no reason. Just for fun, I just thought I'd put that out there since I humorously entitled this Getting High on a Big Painting. I still understand the humor. But after I did, I thought, oh, wait a minute, I should tell people just for fun, just because some of you can't even conceive of a life, I think, probably, where people get neither high nor drunk and have never done so and never plan on doing so. It was about 8 years ago now. We had a young lady living in our house. That happens to us fairly occasionally, by the way. We have a young lady living with us right now who's been here 6 months, sleeping in my studio upstairs, driving my car to work. Been here 6 months. Anyway, 8 years ago was another woman. She might have been here 6 months as well. And we love her deeply. Even though she's very different from us in almost every regard. Had a very, I don't know what they call it, worldly upbringing in life. Rough would be another word for it, rough. And we were watching TV, and it was something about I think it was an NFL football player who had been arrested or gotten in trouble or something like that. I don't remember the details, but had to do with drugs. So another NFL player, high on drugs. And in a moment of deep sensitivity to the travails of humanity, that's sarcasm, I said, I just don't get it. Why do people who are making millions of dollars ruin their careers by getting wrapped up in stupid drugs? Okay, so that was my outburst. And she said, this has stuck with me ever since, very wisely. She said to me, well, Dan, That's because you like reality. Ooh, now that makes sense. I do. I like reality. That's why I've never been drunk, never planned to be drunk, never planned to get high, because I am quite happy. In fact, anytime I find myself unhappy, in my mind, it's because, in fact, I've lost touch with reality. So anytime I'm tempted to be discouraged, the problem is not that I am face to face with reality. The problem is I've lost touch with the biggest and deepest realities. So my antidote to discouragement is dive into deep, deep, deep truths. Now that's hard if you're among those who don't believe there's such a thing as truth. I understand there's a lot of you out there. You're the people that get high. How about that? Because you don't like reality. Anyway, just little heavy thoughts to get your day off to a chipper start. Never been high, never been drunk, never planned to do either one. Why? Because I like reality. I really do like life. So I'm never trying to mask it over. Now, true, in the years since then, I have developed a whole lot more sensitivity and compassion for those whose lives are truly horrific. I've had my share of troubles and trials, don't get me wrong. But different. I'm not condemning anybody here. In fact, one of my dear friends, a couple months ago, we were sitting, small group of us at a coffee shop, and this friend, who will remain nameless, has, for the last 15 years or so, really struggled with alcohol, been in and out of rehab several times. He's a dear friend and a great guy, and just struggles. And we, the small group of us sitting around the the coffee shop, we know his story. And indeed, it is pretty horrific. Lots of pain, lots and lots and lots of pain. And this is, on the other hand, this to make up for my statement about I just don't get it statement, he said to us, sort of through a chuckle, because he'd only been struggling with alcohol addiction for about 10 years. And he sort of chuckled, what's the word? A wry, W-R-Y, a wry smile, or there's another word for it, it's escaping my mind. But through a wry smile, he says, kind of chuckled and said, I can't believe I didn't start drinking earlier. and I agreed with him. I understand that. So anyway, it's not that I'm cruel and heartless and out of touch with people who have struggles. I don't judge them. I don't look down on them. Honestly, I do not. One of the other friends in this small group of guys that get together on a regular basis has sort of some rules for life that he shared with us several years ago now. And they've by the way, I'm painting sky holes, as you can see, and I might be just about done. Sky holes, of course, in a bear tree. Still, same concept, just more holes, and of course have to be very careful that I'm not painting sky dots. Thank you, Tony. I'm going to start moving down. One of the changes that needs to be. By the way, I glazed before I started my broadcast today. I did a blue phthalo, little bit of ultramarine, phthalo blue and a little bit of ultramarine over the whole sky, plus the shady side of the building, including this strip over here. So this all has brand new, just a very, very thin layer of wet paint. I prefer to paint wet and wet. Given the choice, given the option, I'd rather paint into wet than to dry, which I do know that is contrary to most students. Most students want to paint into dry because then the paint is controllable. You hear that word? You like to paint on dry. You like for your oil painting to dry first before you do the next layer, precisely because you like the feeling of control. And when you paint wet and wet, it's less controlled, and that bothers you. And yet most people, the great majority of artists would say, I'm too tight and I'd like to get loose. Well, there you go. So there's some habits you need to stop. One is start painting wet and wet instead of wet and dry. Anyway, that's another topic. So anyway, there's another dear friend in this group of guys that get together periodically and gave us this real simple and what's the word, without any overtones of like religiosity or anything. He said, okay, here's the way life is, so to speak. Here's reality. Number one, everybody can do whatever they want. Rule number one, everybody can do whatever they want. And that, that either sounds, if you're not thinking, that sounds simple enough, like, well, of course. But if you're thinking, you go, wait a minute. No, people can't do whatever they want. And yet, the fact is, nope, that's the rule number one. People can do whatever they want. Now, coming from a spiritual and not religious, boy, I don't want to start parsing out, you guys who are not religious, by the way, you don't understand faith at all, but that's all right. But the Christian perspective, let me just throw you. I like the way Jordan Peterson makes so much of Christian thought accessible to unbelief. He's not a believer himself, I don't think. Maybe he calls himself that. I don't know. Be that as it may. You understand that these ancient scriptures are archetypes, if nothing else. They are archetypes. They are the repositories of centuries of human wisdom, accrued wisdom. Now, of course, Christopher Dawkins and company, God is not great, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. Don't get me started on that. I'm not going to chase that rabbit. But one of the foundations of real Christian theology is, in fact, people can do whatever they want, right? It's called free will. It's just called free will. We're not used to saying it that way. People can do it. But if you think about it, it's like, oh, yeah. So according to Christian theology, that's God's attitude toward everybody. Everybody can do whatever. Oh, okay, so that's level number one. Anybody can do whatever they want. What? Let's jump right to the quintessential, or what's the word? Is it Barclay's rule or something like that? How long does a discussion have to go on before the name of Adolf Hitler is brought up? Okay, so what? You mean Adolf Hitler could murder 6.5 million Jews? That's not right. That's not right. The answer is nope. According to our theology, God gave him the free will to do that. Because that's not the end of the story. But anyway, so number one, people can do what they want. If you just, and I'm talking to myself here, because I've found this train of thought, if you will, very helpful for me. Aids in my mental health. Okay, so number one, people can do what they want. Number two, I am not allowed to judge people for what they do. Okay, some of it's so like at first blush, like you choke on these things. Like what? Number one, everybody can do whatever they want. Number two, nobody can judge anybody else for what they decide to do. Now, that bears a little repeating, and some of you, if you are given to philosophical rumination, then you're still with me. There are many people in the world I discover who really are not given in their natural disposition or personality. They're not given to careful, subtle thinking, and if so, you're not going to enjoy any of this. So sorry about that. Just watch me paint. But what does it mean to judge? It doesn't mean to make judgments. No, we make judgments all the time. Do I go left or right? Do I go 5 over the speed limit or 9 over the speed limit? That's a judgment. And we judge ourselves, we judge others. So that's not what it means. To judge somebody is to, the word recriminate, is to look down upon, censorious. That word starts with the letter C, as if to censor somebody. The judgment has the attitude of censoriousness in it, a dismissive attitude toward other people. That's what it means to judge. And furthermore, to judge means to, in a sense, play God, if I can use that language, to play God and pretend that you are in somebody's head and you know why they did what they did. Now, by the way, the political atmosphere, always, all through history, politics is completely charged with a censorious and judgmental spirit, if I may. So the political spirit is a very dark reality indeed, because it is completely, or almost completely, consists of not only a censorious attitude, but pretending that you know why somebody did something. Oh, and it's usually, here's how, I didn't know I was going to go down this path, but just for fun, it's my show. I'll do what I want. So am I completely off the camera now? I am. Okay, hang on. I came down for a minute. See, I'm making the sky get lighter as it comes down. And in politics, I'll describe the political spirit. I hope that word doesn't freak you out. I mean, the political ethos is, with a censorious attitude, I judge another person's motives, and it's real simple. It boils down to two things. One, they are an idiot, and number two, they are evil, and both of which are completely out of bounds. Those are the two things that we are, again, as if you're even just a decent human being, those are two things you can't do, is pretend you know that you're in somebody's head and know why. You're judging motives. That's, in a word, is what judging means, is judge your motives. And in the political arena, it basically always means, I know why they did this or that or the other. And it's real simple. It's because they're an idiot, because they're deficient in intellect, and number two, because they are deficient in morality or goodness. That's politics. And as you can tell, in my own opinion, is that both of those are completely out of bounds. When do we have the right to judge another person's motives and call them an idiot and call them evil? The answer is never. So let me go back to my friend's 3 statements. The first one is, everybody can do whatever they want. Step number 2, we're not allowed to judge. So now you know what I mean by judging. We're not allowed to make censorious judgments about their motives, and most of the time by declaring that they're evil or an idiot, or both. And politics is full of both. So I vehemently disagree with all political wrangling, no matter who I like or who I don't like. No, let me say this. No matter who I don't like in American politics right now, what I'm not allowed to do is have a censorious attitude, dismissive attitude toward my quote-unquote political opponents. And yet in politics, all through history, this has been the case. In politics, that is the name of the game. That is all you do in politics, is declare your opponent to be an idiot and evil. And in my book, anytime anybody steps into that realm, it's a violation. It's a red card, soccer term, football term. You're out of the game. Boom. I don't care what else you have to say. Doesn't matter. I don't care anything about your opinion. Once you've entered the realm of my opponent is evil and an idiot, then, in my opinion, that's a red card. I have nothing to say to you. and you have nothing to say to me. Anyway, so I try to avoid that myself at all costs. No matter who I vote or didn't vote for, I send good energy toward them, not bad. All right, so my friend said, number one, everybody can do whatever they want. Number two, you're not allowed to judge them, anybody else, for what they choose to do. But number three, you do get to decide how to respond or participate in what they decide to do. Okay, so that's where you get to do your thing, which is participate or not participate, agree with or disagree with, but you don't disagree with a censorious attitude. Anyway, so I'm going back to my other friend who struggles with alcohol. You see, and by the way, for those of you who are perhaps not familiar with such things, the religious spirit, if I can continue to, I use the word political spirit, the religious spirit is in fact a censorious spirit as well, religious. Now, most people that are of true faith are not religious, although many throughout the centuries have been. So it's some of us who are spiritual we and our forebears have justly earned the ire of secular mankind, because over the centuries we have often delved into a censorious spirit. I don't usually get spiritual at all in my broadcasts. I'm probably freaking some of you out, but since I've gone this far, I'll just talk about Jesus of Nazareth for a minute. One of the stunning characteristics, truly, of his teaching and words was that he was so amazingly void of censoriousness. In fact, he said at one time, I don't judge anybody. He said that, I don't judge anybody. It's ironic that many of his followers throughout the centuries have, in fact, not followed his pattern. Like Gandhi said, it's Jesus I like, it's his followers I don't like. Oh boy, I laugh. Not so funny, but anyway, there you go. All right, safe zone. No more spiritual talk unless it comes out accidentally. I don't plan this stuff ahead, as you can easily tell. I'm again adding a little bit of light. I am following the right pattern at this. So far, it's darks first, lights last. I'm going the right way, and I quite like the softness up here. I can't tell right now if this area needs to be lightened. The lighting in this room is not optimal for making that decision at the moment, so I'm going to leave it. Another cold day here in central North Carolina. Last I checked, it hadn't even hit 40 degrees yet, and I'm out in my garage. I do have a space heater going. Now, a little bit of, whoop, it's too light. A little bit of light reflection here. So, by the way, I don't know if I just tie up one loose end. So I was talking about my friend who said, you know, I can't believe it took me this long to get hooked on alcohol because my life has been so horrific. And I feel like I deeply understand that. And there is no judgment. A religious spirit judges people. And sometimes, several times throughout history, followers of Jesus have in fact been rightly accused of being judgmental. But by the same token, most are not. Contrary to their dark reputation in the broader culture, most are not judgmental at all. All right. I think that's all right. So I'm really wrestling here with this whole area, this between there, except for the sign, this from there to there, has to remain fairly dark. And otherwise, I lose my composition. Let me go up wide. Otherwise, if I get too much light punched into this dark area, it ceases to read as a cohesive shape. That's part of the, if you will, the charm of every painting is the darks and lights cohese. as essentially as units. This is a J shape or backwards L or a cowboy boot shape. You see? And that's part of what makes the painting hang together is that one shape. So I have here a big, well, a very bright light punched into the middle of it. As long as that reads as a point and not a zone, I'm okay. And I think I am okay. Likewise, way down here, just last night I did I light brightened up this man's shoulder quite a bit, and that's, of course, that's right in the dark zone. So as long as that is small enough that our brain reads it as a point of light and not an area, we're okay. Same thing here, light and light. So with these windows up here, though, I could really go off the rails quickly if I were to start making them all reflective. So I'm not going to do any more, I don't think. I think that's enough. It's enough to convey, oh, I get it, that's those windows are reflecting the light. By the way, here's a tip. Windows reflect the more oblique, that is, the more we're seeing them from the side, the more steep the angle we're viewing, the more they will reflect light beyond them, the more closer they are to us. So this window here is farther away from us, so we're seeing it at more of an angle. This one we're seeing through the glass a little bit more, so it reflects that less. Does that make sense? So if you're doing a building with a row of windows, this is a very short row, but if there's a row of windows, the far windows in that building will reflect the sky or whatever it is behind it more than the close windows. The closer the windows come to you, the more you'll see through the glass. Same thing is true with water, by the way. That's why, so water that's up close, in many photographs, paintings, you can actually see the bottom of the lake, stream, ocean, whatever it is, up close. But the further it gets away, the more it reflects the light because it becomes more and more mirror-like, the more oblique the angle becomes. So hope that makes sense to you. So I'm reflecting that reality here in these windows and even those a little bit. Now let me mix up some dark dull blue here. So I'm picking up a little dab of my color killer. My go-to color killer is, if you watch me, you know, it's raw umber. I like it. It's a neutral tone, a neutral muddy tone, if you will, that allows me to kill color without shifting it in a direction that I don't like. One of the tasks in front of me right now is to get this line of the building truly vertical. So one of the things I did before I started broadcasting was I had a T-square over here, and I measured, and I actually marked a line, and then marked several dots up there, and then lined them up, and then drew it with a dark pencil. Now here's the trick. This line needs to be vertical. It's almost in the middle of the painting, so there wouldn't be any perspective. You know, there is sometimes, like this over here, these lines technically should be leaning in a little bit, technically, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave them vertical because they're close enough. So all of my lines here are vertical. But it needs to be vertical, but it needs to not be overly sharp, defined. That would be a huge mistake for me to allow the edge of that building to become, Lord help us, razor sharp. That would be a huge mistake. Does that make sense to you? It's going to be sharpest way down here at the bottom. And I have a line drawn, so I know where the line, I want to cover up the line, by the way. I do not want it to remain in the finished painting. I have dark, transparent stuff on my brushes right now. So I'm doing dark. And as you can see, pretty sharp edge, fairly sharp edge right there. And then as I go up, let me see, I need more, I guess that color's all right. Okay. The higher it goes, the closer it gets to the top of the canvas, the softer it becomes. And when I say soft, I mean, my brush right then went 2 or 3 inches to this is building color on my brushes. Does that make sense? I've got dark paint on my brushes, the color of the building. Yet a minute ago, okay, now just then my brush went a good 5 or 6 inches off the building. So again, some of you need to take note. How soft does it get? Well, to some degree, I just made marks up there that were 6 inches off the line. That's soft. Of course, this is a big painting. That makes a big difference. If this was a, 30 by 40 or 24 by 30 or 18 by 24, I wouldn't have nearly that range. It's one of the things I like about big paintings. I was thinking about big paintings just last night, in fact. I wasn't painting. It was quiet in the middle of the night time, and I was writing things down about life, and I realized I came to a fresh awareness of why I want to paint big, and a big part of the reason I want to paint big is for the kinesthetic, for the movement, for the pure motions. I'm not making marks right now, but I have made, as you know, many marks in this painting that large. And I think such marks are beautiful. And that of course, gets me into trouble. As soon as I introduce the concept of beauty, then I run into philosophical issues. So let's just use the word interesting. The essence of good painting is making interesting marks. And part of the reason I like painting large is because I can make large marks. I use the word kinesthetics, movement, the feeling of movement. And that's why I like it. All right, right now I'm diminishing a dark edge along this building. Some with all of my drawing, undrawing, and so forth over the last couple of weeks. I've ended up with an edge on this building that is not completely attractive. So I'm coming in here and doing very dark, but lighter than what's there. I'm mixing up opaque paint because I want to make this lighter. The color I'm mixing in my brushes is, as I said, probably a number 7 on a 10 degree grayscale. So way more than halfway dark, but it's lighter than what's here. So it's appropriate. Does that make sense? You always, if you want any part of your canvas lighter, you do that with opaque paint. If you want it darker, you do that with transparent paint. Okay, I'm going to stop with the dark. I'm going to save those brushes because I may very well come back. And now I'm going to mix up some blue again and paint the sky side of that line. Being very careful not to make too hard or sharp or precise a line. I want it precisely vertical, but I want it very soft. Does that make sense? And let me see what color. Oh, too bright. Back to the palette, mix up more phthalo and more ultramarine and a little bit of dirty purple, because I don't want this too intense. Now, I don't know if I've got the right color on here or not. Let me come up here and see. I'm afraid it's a little intense, but we'll find out in a moment. Yep, it is indeed. Okay, so I need some yellow ochre white, titanium white. That's all I use is titanium white, by the way, and a little raw umber for color killing. I think I need a little bit more white. For those of you who are, as I was 20 years ago when I started oil painting, confused about What's the difference between zinc and titanium? Very simple. If you remember this, zinc is weak. I always say it that way just to make the point. Zinc is weak. Zinc is weak. And titanium is titanium. Titanium is strong. So, in my opinion, if you want to sort of waste your money a little bit and not get your money's worth, then by all means buy titanium white. Is that making sense? If you want to waste your money a little bit and not get your money's worth, then buy titanium because it's a weak white. Now, sometimes some people recommend it for mixing because that's for people that are bad at mixing, in my opinion, because you could do just the same exact mixing with titanium. You just use less of it, thereby saving money. Now, I'm sure there's some smart, brilliant painter out there who's better than I am, who says, no, you're all wrong. Zinc is good, better because blah, blah, blah. And you might be right. You might be right. I just haven't learned that lesson yet, evidently. Until I do, I'm going to keep using as I have for the last 20 years. I don't think I haven't bought a kit tube of zinc white in 15 years, at least. I think, why would I do that? Whoops, I got all the way up here and then discovered I need a rag. That's what I need. So are you able to see what I'm doing way up here? Yeah, pretty much. So just as I had dark bits that were going up to 5 or 6 inches off the building, so I'm going to have light bits that are going 5 or 6 inches off the other direction. Isn't that crazy? Now, if I decide that I've overdone it, of course, then I simply come back and either wipe it off like that or diminish it a little bit or paint over it, either one. But so far, no, I quite like the dancing. That's a little bit too much up there. Hang on. I quite like the dancing color that's happening here, the dancing edge. That's a good word for it, don't you think? And at any point, so like it looks to me like right now that like there's a slight bulge. That just means I come in here and cut in a little bit here and there, as opposed to, see, I know how most of you would do this. Okay, how many times do I have to say this? Here's how you do it. First of all, is my face on? Yep. First of all, tongue. And then you'd hold the brush like this, and you'd start going, zip, 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 zip. And you'd be painting a liney, sharp edge. I hope you feel significantly humiliated. I'm kidding about that, but I am. But I do. I know I maybe do too much, but I do mock these erroneous impulses. I wish to God somebody had done that to me 40 years ago. I swear I would have paid attention, but that was not to be. The college education that I got, they were not interested in teaching us how to paint beautiful paintings. Anyway, I'll leave that there. I've harped on that long enough. All right, as far as I know, I'll look at this again with fresh eyes another time. As far as I know, that part is done. There's a few places here in this tree, coming back down to ground level here. It's quite the climb down. I can't go quickly because I would kick the painting with my heel if I moved too quickly. So, oh, I know, this will give me a good opportunity. Right here, I'm going to paint some branches. I'm going to paint some dark. Here's one answer to the question. So how do you paint a tree? Let me define my parameters a little bit. I'm not even on the picture anymore, am I? Okay, how do you paint a tree? Let's assume the tree is dark and the sky is light. Usually the case. Almost always the case. Tree's dark, sky is light, okay? How do you paint a tree? The answer is dark light, dark light, dark light, dark light. Did you catch that? How do you paint a tree? The answer is dark, then light, then dark, then light, then dark, then light. I have painted these trees, these branches, probably 8, 9, maybe even 10 times now. And I'm about to do, number 11, if you will. Hang on just a second. I need to clean up I've run out of areas for mixing. So I'm going to do dark again. Now, you regulars, you all know, don't you? The rule is, every rule can be broken, but you better know what the rule is first, or you're probably just screwing up. The rule is darks first, lights last. One of the applications of that rule is, and that's not a Dan Nelsonism, that is a universal art professor-ism. At least art professors that are trying to get their students to paint beautiful, which is not most college art professors. Anyway, anytime one of the applications of darks first, lights last is anytime then you apply dark value onto any part of your painting, then that part of your painting is not finished yet, right? Because you always follow up. After you've done dark, you always follow up with light. And forgive me, I can hear somebody squeaking back through. Maybe you'll chat it if you said it. I don't see many chats happening yet, but just a few. Hello, Paula. Hey, Paula. Awesome that you listen to Jordan Peterson. Whoops, I did name his name, didn't I? Now I'm in trouble, aren't I? Yeah, I agree with you, Paula. That's right. You and my husband sound so much alike. That's not a bad thing. Hey, Harold. Good to see you, my friend. Hey, we have things to talk about. I look forward to next time we get together. Let me know when you're available. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah, skinny lines. That's what I'm talking about. Oh, I know. I was going to say, when I say this rule, darks first, lights last, and anytime you apply dark paint to any part of your canvas, that means that part of your canvas is not finished. And forgive me, I hear squeaker voices coming back to me because you had a teacher somewhere that didn't say that, so you haven't heard it before. Therefore, you don't believe it. Let me give you a broader context. Why is that true? Why is it true that every time you put dark on your canvas, you need to come back? Now, every rule can be broken. You understand there are times to break these rules, but if you don't know the rules and you just say, I don't believe that, then you're probably just screwing up. And all I have to do is look at your paintings probably to know that, yes, in fact, you are screwing up. So don't argue with me too quickly. If you're a better painter than me, then by all means, you're welcome. People who are better than me don't typically watch me, right? Does that make sense? All right. Here's why. Why darks for? The answer is because human beings don't like seeing dark paint laid over on top of light paint. It irritates our soul. On the other hand, we very much do like seeing light paint over on the top of dark paint. If you want to argue with that, go talk to our caveman ancestors. Say, hey, how come you human beings like seeing light on top of dark? But anyway, I'm being a little facetious now. Anyway, it is that fundamental. It's like, well, that's your opinion. Well, yeah, it is my opinion, but it's my opinion because it's true, not because it's my opinion. So here I am doing dark. Okay, now let's talk about making skinny lines. I had an epiphany, a realization, a light bulb came on last week when I was teaching a wonderful painting class down in, I won't tell you where it was, somewhere in North Carolina. You can go back and look it up. I don't mind, but I don't want to drag my dear students into this tirade. I had an epiphany, a realization, light bulb came on. I discovered that many, many students, and it took me back to my childhood or my youth, and I went, oh, yeah, that's right. I used to do that. I was 12. Sorry. That's a slight exaggeration. Okay, I was 17. That might not be. Anyway, many people, when they want to paint a skinny line because they don't know how to paint, they will grab an ever smaller and smaller. Can you see this? Hang on. I'm going to get to you there in a minute. There you go. Okay, you see that brush? Sorry, I'm trying to the right. There we go. Okay, you see that brush? It is a number 2 red sable round. Actually, it says red sable. Is that real? I doubt it. I think it's a fake sable. But anyway, maybe it is. But many painters, they think in order to do skinny lines, you pick up an ever skinnier soft bristle brush, and then you can make not bristle, soft synthetic brush, sable brush, and make skinnier lines like that. That impulse is completely erroneous and completely misguided. Now look at the size of these brushes. Am I on camera? Yep. Okay. This is of course they're long handles too, but this is a number 8 and a number. Oh, they're both number 8s. They're in slightly different condition. With a number 8 bristle brush, I want you to notice I can create absolute hairline. Now that is not a hairline. That's a skinny line, but that's not a hairline. But I can indeed create hairline marks with a number 8 filbert brush. And I am not like some kind of freak of art, nature, or anything like that. No. This is what professionals do. So let me expand here. I've been looking for a moment to get onto this. Let me tell you why I can do that, how you can do it too. Let me pick up a moderate small brush. This is a nice brush. It's a number 3 silver filbert, long filbert. First of all, many of you are holding your brush completely the wrong way. You watch me. If you watch me hold my brushes the right way all the time. And yet when you start to paint, you pick up your brush and hold it like this. And even like this is, and you start painting. Again, behold the tongue. And you're doing that. Should I go into this to this degree? I'm not sure. Okay, I'm this deep in. Let me, and I don't want to move my camera. Let me find, I want a box, just a flat surface. Okay. Let me show you what most of you guys, many of you, forgive you. Here's what you do. You think that when you paint with a brush, so I'm going to hold it the skinny, right, wide way, skinny way, that the bristles should flatten out on your canvas. That you actually push the brush onto your canvas and drag it down like that to paint a line. Some of you should be saying, right now, yep, that's me. Yep, that's what I do. And just because you're not saying it doesn't mean I don't know that, because 2 weekends ago, I saw 550 paintings. About 60% of them, the painter did this to make a line. So what is wrong with that? Number one, that is not how you, I don't know how to say this. That is not how you handle a brush. The bristles virtually never get turned into a curve. You see, straight line, and then it hits the canvas, curved line. Are you with me? That is erroneous. That is juvenile. That is immature brush handling. That does not happen. Now, there are times when you're going like this and your brush gets curved. But if you want to do a line, no. Okay? So let me back up. You don't hold the brush this way. Well, then how do you hold it, Smarty Pants? So glad you asked. First of all, you've already seen me doing it. I don't want to make that brush dirty, so I'm going to go back to a much larger number 8, and not a high quality. I love these brushes because the handles are long, but the bristles are not nearly the quality of this silver brush I just held a minute ago. But I'm about, again, to make for you a skinny line, almost a hairline. Let me zoom in so you can see that as much as possible. So I'm looking for another place here that on this tree that needs a branch. Okay. Now, some of you might say, yeah, but it's skipping. Like it was like gray, then a dot, then missed a bit, then gray, then completely missed a bit, and then, in other words, it's an iterative line. It's a start and stop line. And some of you are going, I don't like that. Yeah, but you're the same people that go, I'm tight and I want to get loose. And I'm just showing you, yeah, one of the ways you get loose is by using iterative lines. Okay, because your eye turns that into a single branch line, even though there's breaks in it. And the breaks in it make it lighter and airier, which is what you want. So let me back up now so you can see how I'm holding my brush. Now, the fact that it's a long handle makes this even easier, but I could certainly do the same thing with a short handle. I would be holding it like this, and barely the weight of the brush, barely the weight of the brush. I don't mean even the full weight of the brush like this, but just barely. So that's the kind of stroke. Let me be a little bit more specific. Most of the time in oil and acrylic painting, most of the time, you paint with the blade of the brush, not the point, okay? I'm calling this is the blade, the edge, not the point. You don't hold it like this. This makes, forgive me, but I want you to paint well. This makes god-awful lines, just awful, horrid things. And those of you who are trying to paint and you have when you're drawing with your brushes, you end up, again, forgive me, with these god-awful quarter-inch lines. Everywhere you look, it's quarter-inch thick lines. That's what you're doing. I can tell what you're doing. You're holding your brush like this, and probably like this, and probably like this. Okay? I know I'm on a tirade, but dang it, I want the whole world to get more beautiful. Therefore, I want you to be a good painter. And stop that. Never again for the rest of your life, except on rare occasions, will you hold your brush like this, much less like this. Even this, until you get in the habit, you paint with the blade of the brush most of the time. Essentially, on 80% of my paintings, I never hold the brush in this manner one time until I'm signing my signature. And then it's a Winsor Newton Series 7, and I stick up my tongue and I go with a Winsor Newton, okay? Otherwise, 80%, 20% of my paintings, every once in a while, I have to do something tricky and I pick up and do like that. Otherwise, the 80%, nope. Always painting with the blade of the brush, not the point, okay? Now, some of you guys, I just gave you your best painting lesson you might have ever had in your whole life. Somebody out there should be saying, oh my God, that's me. There you go. So if you'll do it, look at, I'm reaching way up here using this long hand. I'm painting 7.5 feet over my head, making skinny lines with a number 8. Okay, so I don't know if you caught this or not. It went by really fast. I mean, by the way, I didn't draw all these branches real carefully like this. As you know, I go real fast. This is what you see me doing now is very late in the process. There's just a few more branches I need. Okay, so I do not paint branches slowly like this. And I can't go back now and go back in the video and watch me do that. Just keep watching me because I'll do lots of trees in the future. And you'll see how I start out. I start out painting like a crazy man, okay? So it blew by really quickly. Let me go back and reiterate something. And that is, you use bristle brushes. You do not use sable synthetic brushes. I'm glad you bought those nice sables. 1 out of 50 paintings, I'll use a sable brush or synthetic sable. So you use bristle brushes because what I'm modeling for you right now cannot be done with a soft sable brush. Why, I've got one here. I just showed it to you, right? Because the bristles, so to speak, the hairs are so soft. Let me go back to, am I on? Yeah. See, the bristles are so soft that even the weight of the brush, tiny as it is, mashes the bristles, flattens them out against the canvas. And that's what creates ugly lines. Ugly line, nice line. Okay? Boy, I hope somebody's paying attention. As I said 2 weekends ago, judging another show in a couple weeks, 2 weekends ago, 550 paintings. And I would guess, this is not a scientific number, but I would guess, just off the top, that 50 or 60% of the paintings I looked at had those ugly smoosh brush lines. Smoosh brush lines. Actually, okay? And all of my students do this all the time. I must be a bad teacher because all my students paint. I'm being silly. All right. That was quite the tirade, wasn't it? Is it safe to come out now? Yeah, come out. I'll be nice for a while. I'll be nice for a while now. You know, we're all strange birds. I understand that. I think this is a fair assessment, and this has been true for more than 40 years. I'm a true teacher. That's part of the reason why I broadcast all the time. I'm a true teacher. And why am I so passionate? I let you in on the secret just a few minutes ago with my tirade, my verbiage. I believe beauty. Now, again, this puts me so outrageously at odds with the prevailing art establishment. You understand that? How can I disagree with all the art professors of the last 100 years? How can I have the nerve to disagree with every museum curator, executive director, every college art professor, virtually every college? And how can I be so arrogant? Because I'm a historian, not a professional, but a serious hobby historian. And by disagreeing with every, Pittsburgh Art Council, City of Pittsburgh Council of Art, and I'm just using that as a silly example. I don't know if there is such a thing, but, your municipal art, the United Arts Council. How can I disagree with them? The reason is because in so doing, I'm agreeing with thousands of years of human art making. Okay, so beauty has just gone out of vogue in the last 14 minutes, 4.5 minutes, according to in relationship to human history. Okay, for hundreds of years, beauty was in. Now, I actually have good theories as to why beauty went out of vogue. But anyway, I'm a serious teacher because I believe that beauty is one of the last... No, I won't say it that way. I'm going to say it this way. Beauty is one of the secrets to humanity, all of us, evolving. I'm going to use this language on purpose. Is one of the secrets, one of the keys to humanity evolving. See, I believe in evolution. Evolving to its next level of consciousness. Wink, wink to some of you. Okay? Beauty. And I do believe, by the way, that the humanity, which we seem to be doomed to learn every stupid lesson the hard way, I do believe that the art establishment's current commitment to anti-beauty is going to come to an end, very possibly within my lifetime. So I don't think, in other words, I think those who eschew beauty are actually a flash in the pan of history, and eventually the general consensus, it will never be 100%, nothing in humanity is 100%, but the general consensus will swing back in favor of beauty. So that's what puts spring in my step. And that's part of the reason why I'm passionate about having you guys paint well. Would I like it if I was this is an interesting question. Would I like it if I was the worst artist in America? By that I mean, I was this good and every other artist in America was better than me. Now, that's an interesting question, isn't it? It's real obvious. If my answer is no, I wouldn't like it, then it has something to do with a misguided ego on my part. Wait a minute. I want to be good. I want to be admired. I want to be respected. I want to be looked up to. I want to be top dog, right? All kind of pukey motives. Think about it. If every artist in America was better than me, in the world, let's not say America, because especially for those of you who don't live in America, if every artist in the world was better than me, what kind of planet would we live on? Oh my God. Woo, would that be wonderful? And I'm just stupid enough to believe that in 10,000 years, that might actually be the case. Woo-hoo! That makes me happy. All right. Boy, I am waxing deep this morning. Is it afternoon? Oh, yeah, it's way afternoon. Sorry. I am waxing deep this afternoon. All right. I have white paint on my brushes. Oh, by the way, I did dark over here and then didn't come back and follow up with light. There are a few places. Do you understand what I'm talking about? No, let me back up a little bit. There are a few places where I put some dark lines, which theoretically means I need to follow up with light blue. Few places that I don't want to do that. Why? Okay. So here's why rules get broken. Here's why you break rules. Oh, I've never said this before. This is a good one. Write this down, somebody. I say all the time. Hang on. I mean, you need to see my face. I need to see your face. Somebody write this down. I say all the time, the breakable laws of painting. Every rule can be broken, but you better know the rule. Otherwise, you're probably just screwing up, right? That's a mantra. I say it all the time. What is the occasion that calls for the breaking of any rule? Man, this is great. This is why I do videos, because stuff like this happens. This is going to go in my book. And somebody needs to remind me of it, because I don't want to forget this. What is the occasion that would call for the breaking of any rule? Do you know there's an answer to that question? The answer is rules conflict with each other. One rule, I've mentioned this one all the time, the superiority of transparency is well established. Transparent colors are more rich, beautiful, interesting than opaque ones. Therefore, why don't we do paintings that are completely transparent colors? Right? Good question. Because there's another rule. And this rule is the rule of variety. And the value or the aesthetic weight of the variety rule overrules, and trumps the beauty of transparency rule. Ooh, so sometimes, even though transparents are more beautiful, a painting that is made up of both transparent and opaque is more beautiful than a painting that's made up entirely of transparent, okay? So why do rules conflict? So I was talking here about some of these branches. Theoretically, my theory, anytime you put dark, you're not done, you follow up with light. Why? What would cause that rule to break? Well, here it turns out it's the same rule, the rule of variety. There are some, and I mean, it's like right here. I don't know about down here, but yes, here. There's clearly a dark mark that is not abutted and followed up by light marks. What does that create? Variety. Why? Because most of the dark lines up here are overpainted and abutted by light marks. That make sense? Most of them. So the principle of variety trumps the principle of always follow up dark paint with light. Did you get it? So that's why rules get broken, because there are rules in conflict. There are rules that contradict each other. Then, in those cases, one rule will overrule the lesser rule. I use the word rule. How many times have I used the word rule in one sentence? It's about 14 times, just to drive some of you English majors crazy. All right, back to the business at hand. I've got a white street light up here. And what I'm doing right now, if you follow me, you will recognize as the typical for me, fuzz layer. How much fuzz is he going to fuzz? course, with much of those last marks, there wasn't much coming off the brush, but still, there was some. And I like everything I did except maybe a little bit of this line right here. So I'm going to come in and I'm not mad at it. I'm not going to obliterate it. Excuse me. I'm just going to diminish it a little bit. There's some marks up here that are a little too redundant. That is, they're too similar to one another. Okay, layer number 1. Let's go on now to layer number 2. I'm mixing up some more. This is slightly warm titanium white. Warm white proceeds toward the viewer, is thereby perceived as lighter, brighter, whiter than cool white. Most of the time, that gets complicated because if we have our shirts laundered, they wash white shirts. We wash white shirts with soap that has a fluorescent agent, and the fluorescing agent is blue. So especially when we step out in the sun, if you know this or not, if you take a shirt, especially one that's been dry cleaned, and wear it outside or take it outside and take a slab of titanium white straight out of the tube, pure titanium white, and put it on that white, God forbid, on that white shirt, it will appear dark. Why? Because the white shirt has been laundered with fluorescing laundry agents that actually causes it to glow slightly, especially in the presence of ultraviolet light. So you cannot paint as bright as a white shirt. Okay, back up now. When we're dealing, so we're not dealing with laundry white, but in painting, the lightest you can get is titanium. But titanium that is warmed ever so slightly with yellow ochre is my favorite, yellow of some kind, proceeds toward the viewer and is perceived by the mind as even brighter than pure titanium. Now, Mark Carder, one of my favorite online art teachers, so he's talking about this, and you're mixing up a tiny bit of yellow, any kind of yellow, into your titanium white. How do you know when you've got too much yellow? The answer is when the pile on your palette starts to look darker than pure, out of the tube titanium white. Does that make sense? If it starts looking too darker, then you've put in too much. So back off a little bit. Whew, boy. Thank you, Mark Carter. That was brilliant. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm mixing up a slightly, ever so slightly, warm titanium. Okay, I think I'm going to stop that right there. I mean, that layer. And I'm going to mix up some more. With each layer, by the way, each layer I'm getting just a little bit thicker paint than the light before. So I'm mixing up a little thicker pile. Yep, you're seeing this. And then here's a lesson I learned just recently. It's a little too fastidious, as you saw, so I'm going to mess it up. Now, I'm almost finished. If you want, here's a quiz. I've asked this many times before. What is the lightest paint that you can apply to your canvas? The answer is warm white, so what I just described, white with a tiny, tiny bit of yellow in it. How much? Not so much that it starts looking darker than straight out of the tube. Okay, so just warm it up a little bit. But here's the rest of the answer. Applied with a palette knife. That right there is the lightest, brightest, whitest that you can put on your canvas. Now let me stand back and see do I really want that? Do I really want that street light that bright? I think I do, but let me step back and look at it. Oh yeah. I do, although now that I stand back, I go, oh, you know what? I don't want quite that much fuzz. So I'm going to continue to paint a little bit. You understand, paint, not get mad and say, oh, I screwed up. I'm such a lousy painter. I put on too much fuzz, right? So no. And I'm going to paint then with a brush. Yeah, a little bit of a stiff brush. And what I'm actually doing is diminishing some of the fuzz. The difference between painting with a rag, in this case a paper towel, I wanted something a little bit rougher than a nice cotton rag. The difference between erasing and painting is that when you erase, you turn off your artistic brain. Again, you're in Grumpyville, and you're going, I'm such an idiot, blah, blah, blah. No. And when you're painting with a rag, you're making good motions, good marks, and you're evaluating after every stroke. That's what you see me doing here, right? Now, let me let you in on another little secret here that tomorrow when I come back to this painting is dragging on. It is driving me nuts. If I don't like how this looks, then I will do a glaze on top of it, transparent glaze. What color? Probably blue, but maybe warm, so that it's a warmer light. And I'll do glaze on top of it, and then do more opaque on top of that. But anyway, there was a good quick lesson. What's the brightest, the lightest color you can put down? The answer is warm white with a palette knife. Why? Because a brush leaves marks. You know that, right? A brush leaves grooves. The bristles leaves grooves in the paint, like furrows in a field, right? And so the light is broken up by those furrows in the paint, whereas a palette knife leaves a glassy, smooth surface, so the light is not broken up. I think I like that quite a bit. I'm going to stand back again for a minute. Yeah. Now, I have wondered about this, and the wonder just ended. Now that street light is as bright as it is, I want this street sign right here to be a little bit brighter. Not too much, just a little bit brighter. Certainly don't want it competing, so to speak, with either the street light beside this traffic light beside it, or much less the street light above it. But in light of its neighbors now, the sky's lighter, and I can bring this up. And that's always a real easy adjustment in painting. Anytime you want to make something lighter, it's easy because it's a one-step process. All you have to do is mix up some opaque paint and make it lighter. If you want something darker, then it's a little more complicated because it's almost always a two-step process, right? Because you have to do the dark transparent and then follow up with there. I like that, a little bit of glow coming off of that. That's probably good enough for the white. And I'm going to follow up with some little bit of red. See how subtle that was? Very, very, very subtle. Hang on. Okay, so now I'm reaching for my Scarlet Lake, a warm red. Good for when you want to do a red that is light in value. If you do a light Naphthol crimson, the light Naphthol crimson will look like pink, and very possibly not a pleasant pink, as I usually call it, a sickly bubblegum pink. Nothing wrong with bubblegum. I liked it when I was a kid, but I don't like it so much, the color, as an artist. There's a place for it. In fact, I put some dark bubblegum yesterday. I made a note of that when I was painting. I said, look at this. I rarely paint with the color pink. But I did yesterday for a minute there. All right, so I think that's all right. And so now this plane, I've spoken many times about how all the planes in any painting, but in this painting in particular, all the planes are graduated. They go from dark to light. One is light, and I just exaggerated that effect here. And even though it may not be perfectly realistic, our brain tends to connect that bright light up there with this graduation here, and our brain says, oh yeah, that light is shining on this sign. that make sense? I mean, our brain, my brain really does do that. Even though technically I'm not, it wouldn't look like that. At that distance, the bathing of light on this flat surface would be virtually uniform. You with me? But uniform is boring. So I'm tickled that our brain interprets that as, oh yeah, that street light is shining on the top of that sign, even though it's not realistic. In reality, the street line would hit all of the sign virtually with the same degree of intensity. There would not be a graduation. All right. I'm going to take a break here. I have been rambling and pontificating to beat the band today. Which band are we beating? I don't know. Whatever band it was, we beat them. I think I'm happy. I think I'm happy with the tree, the sky. I think I'm happy with the light. I'll decide tomorrow. I think I'm happy with the edge, happy with the windows. Not happy with the sign, by the way. When I came back this morning after doing this yesterday, I love the idea. I think I've just overdone it a tiny bit. I'm actually going to lighten this part of this a little bit, which again, that's such an easy fix. It's always nice in a way. It's always nice, if you will, to have to lighten something. It's like, oh, whew, thank God that's easy, because it's just a one-step process. But I am ready to go. The sign, the letters, need to be straightened up a little bit. And again, straightened up without getting them overly tight. And this, I might be done with this edge. Nah, probably not. There's a little bit too much pencil right here. A little bit of cartoony look there that I don't want, and up there. I will do that here this afternoon without your presence because it's too much plain old. And then hopefully this afternoon, I will get into the final, and I might broadcast this part, will be what is now the new final step for me, which is broken color. That's in the last 6 months. That's a new step, distinct step, separate from all before it. And I'll describe that later. If you've watched me often, you already know what that is. And there's lots of room for broken color all in this dark area. The broken color I apply will be just as dark as this, but shifting in color. All right. Oh, let me see your comments before I go here. Appreciate you guys chatting with me. Got your Paula's and got Harold's already. John Lysicatos. I'm going to get it right, John. Lysicatos. Sounds Greek. Are you Greek, John? Is that a Greek name? He has the honesty to say, yep, that's me. Excellent insight. I wanted to use the blade versus the tip. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. And then John also says, that was a fantastic perspective on the importance of beauty. Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Thank you, Dan. May I offer this quote to your perspective? Love it. Beauty without virtue is like a rose without scent. Wow. Cool. Who said that? Did you say that? Or did some smart old dead person say that? Sounds good. I like it. Harold, got you, man. Look forward to, and thank you, Michael. Appreciate your encouragement. So I on second thought, I think I will end this broadcast completely right here. And if I start doing broken color this afternoon, which I certainly hope to do, I'll make that a separate broadcast. All right. Thanks for your company. Appreciate it. If you like this, like, comment, subscribe, share. If you don't like it, keep that to yourself. It's becoming a sign off. Regular. Okay. Bye.